I'm Julie from World Wellness Weekend. I'm a Belgian ambassador, and today's topic, as I said yesterday, is about those controversial carbohydrates. There's been so much talk out there about carbs, and I'm not surprised that people get confused. I know I'm often asked what I think. Are they good? Are they bad? And my answer is always, well, it depends on your health goals, your age, and what kind of carbs you've been consuming and how much. Now, that may sound like a bit of a cop out, but actually, there is no one size fits all answer. That's what nutritional therapy is really all about. It's about getting down to the nitty gritty with each person's health story. So whether you are toying with the idea of going paleo or looking into the ketogenic diet to shift unwanted belly fat, or because you've read that it's great for improving brain function, I always think it's worth swimming back upstream to get a bit of a knowledge about what carbs are all about, because as I said yesterday, not all calories are created equal and not all carbs are created equal. And then when you have that knowledge, you can really start working out where you could be doing things differently. So let's start by saying that 47% of our energy is coming from carbs. And then 1 gram of carb is actually equal to 4 calories, so 4 energy units. And there are things called simple carbs, or simple sugars as they're often called, like glucose and fructose, which these things are broken down much more quickly by the body, and therefore they get into the bloodstream faster. And then you have the more complex carbohydrates like starch, which does not taste sweet. And of course, you've got fiber. So the body can't absorb a complex carb like starch. It has to really be broken down into those simple sugars. So in other words, it's going to be broken down into glucose. But this, as I say, because it takes longer, it's a much slower process. So if you want to do an experiment, and I love an experiment, if you were to chew a piece of bread long enough and start to really break it down, eventually it would start to taste sweet because you're breaking it down into those basic sugar blocks. Now, we're not able to digest fiber, but it still has a very important role to play in the body. We all know it keeps us regular. It helps to slow down actually the absorption of carbohydrates, and it can also help in regulating your cholesterol levels, and it's important as well for our gut bacteria. And I'm going to be talking more about fiber later on in the challenge. So you're starting to get the picture. It's the kind, the quantity, and the quality of the carbs that really do matter. But in the end, it all boils down to glucose. Now, glucose is that ready and quick form of energy. Then what's not immediately needed, as I said, is going to be stored as glycogen, which, as we mentioned yesterday, is stored in the liver or the muscles, but not a lot of it can be stored. And I said, yes, the excess of those carbs does get stored as fat. But a good point to remember is that those fat stores don't get used up easily because the body likes glucose. It's so easy to use it. It really doesn't have to work hard to use it. So that's why sometimes it's really hard for us to lose that extra fat because, we have the available glucose. Why should the body work a bit harder? Let's just use that faster energy source. So if your blood sugar, for example, or we also call the blood sugar your blood glucose level, gets too high, your body goes to extraordinary lengths to keep your blood sugar in the normal range. And it does that by using a hormone called insulin. I was reading a shocking fact recently from a diabetes foundation. And on average, they say that we are consuming 110 grams of sugar per day. And that's about, let's think about that. That is about 10,000 sugar cubes per year. And according to the NHS in the UK, as adults, we should really only be consuming 30 grams or 7 sugar cubes per day of what they call free sugars. That's the added sugars, so things that they put into foods. And there are always those special occasions throughout the year, aren't there, when we might be seeing our sugar levels getting elevated by consuming additional things like chocolates or sweeties, biscuits, or alcohol. So really the bottom line is, I suggest that you do for yourself a carb audit. So we're doing a lot of this auditing, haven't we? We've been looking at it. So let's think about it as being mindful, looking at what we're eating, what we're putting inside our body, what are the building blocks, and think about the following. How much free sugars am I consuming? So in other words, the simple sugars that have been added to my foods and beverages. So maybe you put your sugar in your coffee or your tea, or there being things put in by the food manufacturers. And those sugars that are naturally present, so things like honey, syrups in fruit juices, and fruit juice concentrates. Because, as I said, excessive simple sugars can cause our blood sugar levels to spike, making our bodies work really hard to get back into balance, and potentially they can cause damage if left unchecked. And number two, how much fiber is in the carbs that you're eating? Remember, the higher the fiber content, the better, because you'll be feeling fuller, but also it'll be helping to slow down the absorption of those carbohydrates. And how much on my plate are things like starchy carbs, like rice, pasta, potatoes, and pastry? And how many vegetables are you eating per day? Because remember, vegetables are that great source of healthy carbs, water and fiber, vitamins and minerals. Now, let's have a look at a simple action plan to get started and get control of your carb intake. What would that look like? Well, here's a suggestion, as I said. One, kick to the curb all those foods with the added sugars, i.e. the processed foods. The sugary cereals, the biscuits, the cakes, the soft fizzy drinks. They're just not going to help you reach your health goals, but they'll be silently harming your body without you even realizing it. Number two, check the amount of carbs on your plate in the form of the rice, the pasta and the potatoes, and perhaps to reduce the portion size. And then the third thing you could do would be to increase the amount of what we call the nutrient-dense, fiber-rich veggies. Going green in a big way, lots of leafy greens, variety is important. Go moderate on the root vegetables. They still have some natural sugars in them. And, look for some smart swaps. So instead of pasta, you could be using spiralized veggies or sweet potatoes instead of regular potatoes. And if you're not quite ready yet to swap the pasta or the rice, then perhaps switch to wholemeal pasta, brown rice, and get your portion size down. Fruit, yes, fruit is healthy for us, but again, you need to eat it in moderation, eat it whole, and choose fruits that what we call have a low glycemic load, meaning that they won't raise your blood sugar levels too rapidly. And I've put a link here where you can get a list from me about fruits and veggies on that GL list. So do click the link below. And tomorrow we'll be chewing over the fat. So I'll see you then. Bye.